Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the U.S. Capitol building. If you've joined us today for the insurrection, please make sure you pick up a promotional leaflet on the way in, stay inside the safety cordons at all times, and if you get lost, speak to one of our Capitol police officers. They'll be sure to point you in the right direction. And be sure to set aside a little time today to join us for some insurrection activities, including our photography tour, our fancy dress competition, and have a go on our climbing wall. But don't forget those safety ropes.
Man, this whole insurrection narrative, it was a joke. It was a joke. And trust me, the people who paid attention or who's paying attention to the story, they knew it as time went by it was a joke. You know, but especially now with this additional footage that's been released by Fox News, it just confirms what most people thought. At least most people that, like I said, who really watched what was going on and read about what's going on. I mean, think about it. How can such a secure area, especially being even more secure since that there were numerous politicians congregating at that particular area at the same time to certify the votes for the 2020 presidential election, how can an area like that easily be so breached by protesters that didn't have any guns? I mean, really, I mean, look, I swear, these politicians and media pundits, I truly believe that they think the public's stupid. They really do. And I ain't gonna lie, from some of the things I've read online and seen in social media and so forth, I can kind of see why.
I ordered a pepperoni pizza and you sent me just dough. There's nothing on it.
Oh, no. Are you sure that's not the breadsticks? Did you open up all the...
No, it's not the breadsticks. I'm not stupid. I mean, I can see what breadsticks are. This is in the pizza box, and there's no sauce, there's no cheese, and there's no pepperoni. It's just bread.
And one hand on the bottom.
Why are you making me do this? Just give me the refund. Give me the pizza that I ordered.
Okay, so flip your hands over. Yeah, just like that.
This is so stupid.
And then, box, I think all your problems will be solved here. Did it work now?
I'm sorry. I was just really hangry, and I think I just got ahead of myself. It was upsetting.
But look, I ain't one of them, and I'm sure most of you people out there, like yourself, you aren't either. You know when you're being bullshitted or not. And this is bullshit. I mean, I tell you, these people in the deep swamp of DC, these politicians, I mean, they've been wanting Trump since day one. I've been watching this. I mean, I was never really a big, Trump supporter or voter or anything like that. I mean, granted, if I did vote in 2016, I would have voted for him over Hillary. But that's because I go with the whole lesser of two evils type of thinking, you know, when it comes to voting. But the more how I see how the media is so biased against him, you know, I can't help but to support the guy. And it's not so much about supporting Trump particularly, anything like that, but it's about supporting what he embodies. You know, he embodies the opposition to this political tyranny that's going on that basically has the mainstream media in his back pocket. I mean, like I said, it's so obvious. I mean, just to think about it, when Trump got elected in 2016, there were riots in the streets. And because they stated that he had concluded with Russia in order to win the election back in 2016. Then, a couple years later, 2 or 3 years later, the whole Mueller investigation was completed and confirmed that neither Trump nor anybody in his party, his campaign party, had conspired or coordinated with the Russian government. But yet, to this day, some people still believe he did collude, especially people in the media are still pushing this lie that has already been investigated. So a lot of people still believe he did collude with Russia and stole the elections in 2016. Then, if I recall, he also got impeached for the first time a couple months later after that, after he was clear about the whole entire Russian collusion thing. He got impeached, and Congress basically said that Trump abused his political power or his presidential power by withholding military funds to Ukraine. And after that investigated, nothing happened. But then Joe Biden said this about a couple years prior, like in 2015, and nothing happened to him.
And I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to the press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Now, back then, Joe Biden was not the president, but he was a vice president. And I had to look this up because I wasn't too sure. But a vice president can also be impeached. So I have to ask you, why wasn't Vice President Biden impeached, but Trump was? And to go a step further, back in 2015, when Biden was vice president and this happened, the House was majority Republicans. I only say that because it gives more credence to this whole uniparty mindset in DC. You know, that's why I don't align with either party, Republicans, Democrat. To me, they're almost the same. Almost the same. But to me, the party lines is pretty blurry. But back to the January 6th riots. This caused after the riots, it caused a second impeachment for Trump, even after he was out of office, which clearly tells me that they were afraid of him running again. But neither one of the impeachments that was put against Trump, it stuck. None of them stuck. And the last one in relation to this insurrection was so absurd. I mean, it was so absurd. Trump never called the protesters to riot. He said peacefully protest. Clearly said that. I mean, the absurdity about this whole second impeachment was so obvious that even Trump's lawyer back then put the media on blast.
Tired of the biased media on both sides, left and right. What this country wants, what this country needs, is this country to come together, to take the left and the right and find a middle ground and start responsibly being our public officials, our elected officials. And one of the reasons why they do it is because of the media, because the media wants to tell their narrative rather than just telling it like it is. And frankly, I'm tired of it. I'm not a media, I'm not in front of your cameras all the time, but
right.
I've been subjected to this last week.
I understand, and I've given you the opportunity.
You don't want to hear the truth, yeah. Okay.
I've given you the opportunity. I will remind you that what I said was that for our viewers who have not been following all of the hours of this trial, to be clear about what you are speaking about. And I understand
I'm speaking
that you
about
seem
the House
very
manager's
upset.
failure to prove their case. That's what I'm telling
And
you. They weren't able to prove their case.
You have won the acquittal of your client.
Yes,
and if you'd like to continue to talk about this conversation, we can have that discussion.
I don't need
but for me to ask a question,
a slanted question that was set up to say it's okay for them to cheat. That was your question.
I mean, look, the media's a joke, man. Everybody's a joke. And the January 6th committee, I mean, they're a joke too, as well as pretty much everything they presented to the DOJ, the Department of Justice, in their findings from the January 6th committee. It clearly was one-sided. I mean, so that's why this additional footage, the riot, it had to be released. It had to be. I could see why it wasn't released during the committee hearings. I can understand that because it was an ongoing investigation. But now that it's been released, one has to ask themselves, why didn't the committee, bring into question what we're seeing? I mean, you have to say to yourself, okay, one, why were the Capitol Police practically giving a tour to a guy with a raccoon hat with horns? I mean, come on, man. I mean, second, why the police outside was pretty much standing down as protesters were just basically charging the Capitol? Really? And then another thing, why did they lie saying that officers were killed that day when actually only one had passed away and it was a day after due to a stroke? I mean, granted, the officer's stroke could be attributed to the riot, and may God rest his soul, that officer that passed away, but he wasn't killed during the attacks as they previously stated. I mean, lies by these politicians, man. Politicians, media pundits, bureaucracy, talking heads. I mean, it's just so overwhelming. I mean, just another thing, just think about it. To this day, they say the explosives were found by law enforcement and they said it was found located near the RNC and the DNC headquarters. But to this day, it hasn't been resolved who planted those explosives. I mean, with all the cameras and security footage and everything around us, you mean to tell me that the ATF can't even find out who planted these explosives? But yeah, we could find Osama bin Laden across the world in I don't know, Afghanistan or Pakistan. So this footage that Tucker Carlson and Fox News had basically released, you know, it just gives more credence to what a lot of people thought about, that really thought about this whole entire January 6th riots. You know, it was not an insurrection, it was not an attack on a democracy, and it definitely was not worse than 9/11. To me, it was a protest where some people ran amok and were trapped into a controlled riot where they were not just allowed into the Capitol, but some were escorted. So there'll be footage of this rampage and rebellion that can be attributed to Donald Trump to impede or obstruct his opportunity of ever running again for presidency in 2024. I mean, that's what I think. That's my summation of January 6th. And what do I know? You know, I'm just some guy on the internet who basically just read documents, watched footage, you know, and like I said earlier, I don't lean either way, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. So, did I get it right? You tell me. Now that all this footage is all released, I don't expect you to watch all 10,000 hours or whatever it is, but for the few things that you can watch and see, what do you think January 6th is all about?